That's how a white man dunks a basketball.
My mom has said many of wild things about Sam Elliott.
Joey, let's make some wake-up juice.
Me and my friends have been too busy bathing off the southern coast of St. Bart's with spider monkeys for the past 2 weeks. Tripping on acid changed our whole perspective on shit.
We're gonna be okay.
What is he doing?
I think he's sleeping.
Sleeping?
Well, he must be narcoleptic. It's a rare sleeping disorder.
I'm not here to present stats. I'm just here to present vibes.
This is Past the Rock.
Mavericks hoping to add some to the championship banners hanging in the rafters here. That Dallas Stars championship team back in '99. And speaking of hockey, Stanley Cup Finals on TNT. For the first time ever. Doncic's just exquisite. Bullock!
Mike Bonanno, you've got to be excited watching Luka Magic turn in these hockey assists.
But how about this?
Here he is. Welcome, Colin. Colin's been a Victory Club member since 2018, and he just won a Starcation.
Thank you. Let's go Stars.
What the Rock is cooking.
Recording live from 3 locations. This is Past the Rock. I'm Patrick, and as always, I'm joined by two noble men. Caesar, aka LCs.
I don't know how noble I actually am, but all right, let's go for it.
And Jacob, aka Bethke.
Hey, noble like Reggie.
All right, we're recording a little late this week. We had a storm. Our normal recording day kind of knocked out power for me. I think Caesar for a while as well. So that was fun. This is our first weekend recording. So it'll be something new for us to play with. I would like to start with my own public apology for straight up falling asleep at the mic last week. Not my proudest moment. I'm glad you guys just took it and ran with it. Finished everything up. Made the editing really easy because there was 1/3 less of it for the last bit there.
That was hilarious.
Glad y'all got to hear my dog drinking water.
Hey, I just want to be said. I think I mentioned the Spurs, and it was instantly then that it was over. So you're not helping your team's cause here.
Yeah, I know. There were moments like in the 30 minutes leading up to that where I would kind of start to doze off, and I was like, "No, I'm gonna make it. I don't need to do anything. I can make it." I did not make it. But we'll make sure that doesn't happen again.
So were you like laying down this face first on your desk, or?
I mean, I woke up just sitting in my chair.
All right,
slumped.
I was back. I was leaning back in my computer chair. Like, yeah, as much as you can be.
It's a shame that you're not a snorer, so that we could have had audio of that.
Yeah, sometimes maybe it's only when I'm lying down sleeping that I snore, because I'm pretty sure I do. But yeah, I was disappointed not to have any of that. But we got my dog drinking and random cars driving past. Got a lot of that sound, so that was fun.
Yeah, I tried to turn off the Craig Bob, but it wouldn't let me. So.
Yeah, that's cool. I could probably find a way to do that for y'all, but it shouldn't be an issue moving forward. So we'll just hope we got it.
Let's have an over and under. Let's have an over under on how many more times Patrick falls asleep on the mic.
I would put it at this year. I'd put it at 0.5. So
I'll take that.
0.5 more times.
I'll take the over.
That's what my Vegas book is putting out there. So lots to get into this week. The XFL's obviously going to get some time. Caesar's very committed to the XFL, as is the whole podcast.
You got to commit to the bit, baby.
Yeah. And of course, the NBA is headed right into playoff mode soon, so there's a lot to cover there. So I think this week we are going to start with Jacob and the NBA. Am I passing the rock to you, Jacob?
We're passing the rock. We're shooting like Steph Curry. Oh, he just bricked it. Sorry, catching up on the game still. So NBA news. There's been a lot that has happened since we last left. I wasn't sure if we should cover news, if we should cover the games, since teams are starting to take shape into what they're looking like after the trade deadline. But since there's plenty of time for that, I wanted to just kind of quick hit the news, the important things about the stretch that we know right now, and then we'll get into talking about the CBA, everybody's favorite aspect of professional sports. Are you guys excited?
Oh, yeah. I love lawyers. I love contracts, especially legalese. That's my favorite.
I love when the owners make the players into the villains. That's the best part.
Yeah, getting mad at millionaires about billionaires and all that.
I love it. Exactly. Getting mad at millionaires about billionaires. It's so true. So yeah, before we get to that, I'll just run through all the news. 2 big injury news updates. Well, 3 kind of actually. One just happened last night that's important as well. So LeBron is shut down pretty much till the end of the month. Lakers have been surviving without him. The rest of the Western Conference has been doing them many favors. So it's not the end of the world for the Lakers. In a way, you could honestly argue that this is a positive for a team that hasn't shown a lot of winning consistency. And of course, I mean, if LeBron can't show his winning consistency still, then we got bigger problems, right? So you just want him to be healthy.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine they're going to be able to win enough games to even get into the playoffs without him, but I guess they could.
They've got a path, but it's mostly not based off of how good they are and how bad everything else is. I kind of drew it out, but these were I didn't update it, so this was for Thursday. The losses, they're all so close. Like everybody's losses are close. They won against Golden State today. Even I'm not hitting the rewatch, but that game's already over. The Lakers won, so they keep pace. Other teams that they need to lose will lose. I think they should at least get 9 and 10 because they're a much more competent basketball team. I'm watching a team built around Anthony Davis. D'Angelo Russell hasn't even played these last few games, so I really like the Lakers to be one of the more competent teams. But it's more or less, I'm looking at Oklahoma City, Portland, Utah, New Orleans, and I'm like, all 4 of you could drop out and I wouldn't be surprised. I think that's the best news for, keeping the LeBron and playoffs alive and the Lakers' dreams alive. Other than that, it's a foot tendon issue. Apparently he had been playing on it. We're not sure what the reality of that situation was, but either way, not great, and we'll see if the Lakers can overcome it. The second injury, even worse than that, but a little bit less impactful, is LaMelo Ball's fractured ankle. I think that's a pretty interesting deal because that's really setting up his next Supermax contract to not be as inflated as usual. Like I'm honestly kind of looking at his as this might end up being kind of Stephen Curry.
Value.
Yeah, I mean, well, to some extent, I think Steph and
like
LaMelo are
a value for what should be considered a close to max guy. I don't know if he's that good or not, but
he's a max guy. I mean, really, LaMelo if he just took basketball a little more seriously and committed defensively, like he would be one of the best players in the basketball. Like it's not a question of talent; it's a question of maturity and how long that takes. If it ever happens, sometimes it doesn't happen with these dudes. So we'll see with him, but the talent's there. And maybe this is good because Charlotte was one of the best worst teams, and that's really not the best situation to be in with somebody as good as that big guy coming through. And man, if you had LaMelo and you had Wembanyama, that would sure make Michael Jordan's poverty franchise a little bit more palatable moving forward.
King of Pop isn't dead. That's
an alternate universe.
Revealing to us right now.
An alternate universe where Michael Jackson owns the Charlotte Hornets is hilarious.
Honestly, that would be amazing. But the reality we should have got is the Minnesota Timberwolves being owned by Prince. That's a deep cut. We'll get to a different time. Mark Lazary sold his share of the Bucks. This was something Bill Simmons had reported on his podcast like early in the season, and then eventually became true. and he sold it to none other than Jimmy Haslam, who was the owner who took advice from a homeless man. Correct?
Yes, and the crazy. I mean, that's that. I don't want to bury the lead on that one, but it's insane to me with how much those towns hate each other sports wise that now they've got to like conflate loving and hating this guy for different reasons.
All that stuff is so weird, though, because if you think about it, like the guy who just bought the Suns is deeply entrenched into Michigan culture, and then so is Dan Gilbert, right? Dan Gilbert owns like half of Detroit, but owns the Cavs, right?
And then
it's such a weird thing.
And then there's the Walmart family slowly taking over
Right.
the Western United States sports.
So it's like, bro, it's really one of those interesting things. So, I mean, the only interesting part of the ownership here is that Lasry and another owner, another one of the three, there's 1/3 governors that bought the team in 2014. It was a 1/3 share. Two of the guys would alternate as governor. We talked about that a little bit, but that's essentially the official what it was. So I'm not sure if Haslam will have the same. That's really the question. Is I don't know if I have an answer to that. If that got posted and I didn't see it, but I'm not sure if Lasry is going to give up that same power to Haslam, or if this other guy Edens just takes over as governor full time. I think Lasry is the current acting governor too. So I don't know. This is a weird one. Doesn't matter necessarily for the Bucks. They're playing amazing. They took a tough L to the Sixers, but really not a bad one after like a 16-game winning streak. So hopefully Jimmy Haslam doesn't take any advice from homeless people and doesn't mess up Giannis Antetokounmpo's prime. But
at least
nonetheless.
they got a title before he got there.
Yeah, no doubt. Like, and they're very well positioned to win this title. So even if they dry up after, maybe they can get 2 out of it.
This definitely seems like a year that a lot of teams can say that to themselves.
Yeah, but how many have 34, right? That's always, and it's so far as competitive as the NBA is. It's still sometimes the fundamental truth. Do you have that dude?
Feeling good about my Mavs ticket that I got. So,
well, the Mavs will be a team in the playoffs. I agree with that.
I just think it will be hilarious to watch how if that just catches fire, it could be fun.
You know, you're right. And today, actually, I thought, let's do a little Mavs talk because that's how I watched that game. I wanted to kind of get that in. I didn't have any other real basketball points to hit other than, there's some teams surging. Klay Thompson has been fucking amazing. Dame had a casual 71.
Dude, and so it's such a casual 71.
Very casual 71. Houston basically was just like, do whatever you want, bro. We're chill. And he's like, cool, I will.
Man, it would have been great if he could try to go for 80.
Ooh, and the last injury I didn't mention, Brandon Clark, season-ending injury. That's basically the backup big for the Grizzlies. That's pretty concerning for a team that has a lot of dudes, but not a lot of dudes that I would pencil into their playoff rotation, with Clark being one of those guys that I had penciled in. So, tough one. Big-time tough one for that.
Dude, the Grizzlies could be short on star power in the playoffs.
Yes, so we did have to segue to that. I was going to save it for maybe after the CBA, but let the Mavs talk flow right now. But yes,
hey, however you want to do it.
We'll get to the Memphis Grizzlies at the end of the portion. I just didn't want to forget that injury.
I don't know. I feel like he stepped on that bear trap. We might as well just.
All right, well, fair enough. You're right. And then just remind me to pick up on the Mavs.
Yeah, I got you.
So here's the thing. It's an uncomfortable conversation for me to really feel like I need to have a statement on. So the easiest way to look at it is the rules in the handbooks, you sent the tweet. I'd seen it earlier retweeted by somebody.
And again, I
don't know who it was.
Just to say, I did not go back and confirm that is actually the text.
Oh, that's legit.
Okay.
That's from Gilbert Arenas, for sure. I don't think that he'll be punished that severely. So I guess we need to mention it. 50 games is the max punishment for brandishing a gun on team plane, team facilities, blah, 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 right?
Is it brandishing or just like having it?
Or having, yeah, whatever. Sorry, that was a weird. Everyone's been using the word brandish. Yeah, everyone's been using the word brandish so much.
That's what he did. So
he did. Yeah, you're right. So essentially, when Gilbert did it, it was well reported, very obvious. I mean, he literally has told the story a million times. He put like a bunch of guns on the table and told Javaris Crittenden to pick one. That was obviously not awesome. David Stern was so pissed off that it was like unimaginable. If David Stern was here today, I mean, Fox News would be so happy with the NBA's punishments.
And I'd like to say this. That's one of those things where, because the NBA, it is a decently aged league, but it's not baseball old yet. That's one of those things where you hear about happening in like maybe like 1920s, 30s baseball, and you're like, that's badass. And, because you're hearing about it 90, 80 years later. So later on down the line, that's going to be folklore that people are going to be like, what a cool thing that happened.
I mean, honestly, Gilbert Arenas has already basically made a media career out of that story anyway. Like, he talks about how it destroyed his pro career, but like his knees destroyed his pro career.
Yeah, missing some free throws against LeBron, all that.
Yeah, well, that didn't help, but yeah, the knees really did it for Gilby.
That's my narrative. I like my narrative.
But no, so anyway, he was at a club rocking a pistol in his IG Live video. I think it was IG Live.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And so, that was pretty stupid. Obviously, we don't like. You literally have your own Nike shoe. You are one of the faces of your franchise, of your city, and of the future of basketball. You're one of the most popular players with young people for sure. So that's really where I want to home in. His response was very PR driven, not like I didn't expect that or am punishing him for that. It just is what it is. I hope that he's serious about whatever this time away is. He's allegedly been suspended for 2 games, but then it could be more based off of Woj's tweet. So that's weird.
It was like 2 games to start, and then we'll see how we feel later.
Yeah, so I think you can tell the NBA.
He put out his apology.
The NBA is even confused on how to handle it a little bit, I feel.
I mean, that's fair. It's an interesting situation.
It keeps piling up.
So I guess
with Ja, man, like, these incidents just keep coming one after another.
We'll clear some of these up, right? So Indiana, I think, is the most concerning because that's another team's staff members that reported the incident. And I don't know if there was enough evidence of it or not. Whatever the NBA decided on, it is what it is on that, I guess.
What was the claim there?
Well, there was a laser pointer pointed at the direction of some of the staffers for Indiana after a heated exchange.
Like in the parking lot? Weird.
Yeah. That was the report of that. And then there was a second report that he beat up some kid. That one is the one that is a little erroneous, it seems. Seems like the lady has a history of these sorts of lawsuits. So that one's a little weird. I don't know what to rate that on the realism scale, but it's certainly shit timing for Ja. Basically, like I said, I already said the young person part. It's important. He's in a weird slippery slope between culture and his responsibility as a spokesman, as an ambassador of as a brand, right? Like I hear these guys talk about how they really make you a brand, like an individual brand now in the NBA. And
yeah,
even if it's just for that,
we like to say, and we all the time are like, these guys are individuals and they have the right to do their own thing. Part of what you're getting paid for is behavior when representing whoever's signing your paycheck. Which, that's a weird line, obviously, but to some extent, that's where the team has to, what they're doing now is where they have to step in and say, all right, dude, like, if this is off season, it's one thing, but you're on a team playing, you're representing us right now.
And let's also not bury the lead on some of it where there's also an aspect of you are a part of Memphis culture. And Memphis culture has plenty of gun violence, like many of our cities in America. It recently had a really tragic incident with a celebrity type that was very popular and gunned down in a very, just ruthless way. And, I thought that was a good example of, hey, this is one of those moments in a city's history where people can start being more outraged and start holding each other accountable. And that begins the steps in the right direction. So regardless of whether that happens or not, or whether there's other issues I'm not aware of because I'm not from there, I don't know. But ultimately, to have, that person be assassinated, I feel like young Dolph just recently died, right? That was like a year ago.
Yeah, that's 2022.
So you just had that happen, and you're running around the face of the local franchise that's very synonymous.
November 21, yeah.
So in a team that's in a city that's very synonymous with its hip hop roots, like it's a city with a lot of hip hop roots. There's just a lot of things here where it's like, I don't care that you have a gun. I don't care that you're being, how you run and operate your life. I don't care about the club. I don't care about that shit. But like, if anybody ever needed to tell you not to wave a gun in front of an IG camera at this point in your career, bro, like that's baffling. Honestly, it truly is baffling.
Yeah,
it's not his responsibility to save Memphis.
Exactly. That's kind of what I was going to say. Like, whether or not that's what he's about, or whether or not it's definitely not fair to put that on anybody, especially not a young guy. But just objectively speaking, like, even if you wanted to be like, I'm about this life, doing it that way is still just a dumb way to do it, because you're just only there's just not the right way to do it. I don't know.
No, it's true. You're right. Even if you are just condoning the criminal shit, that's a bad way to be a criminal.
There's no winning in that. Like, that play just needs to get removed from the playbook unless you're making some kind of ironic parody video. I don't know.
Yeah, no, you have to be careful with it, and it'll be interesting because I think they were kind of a paper tiger in a lot of ways going into this, and this doesn't make me feel any better about their chances. Dylan Brooks just got his 16th technical of the year. So
God, he's the worst, dude. I'm a very casual NBA fan, and I only know his name because I do not like him.
He's annoying, man. I'm not gonna lie. He's an annoying dude, and his game does not back up nearly as much of the bullshit.
Problem, really.
But we've had his type before. We'll have his type again. They're more prone in hockey and sports like that, where the physicality really needs to be, the tone really needs to be set in a game.
Yeah, it's supposed to be part of the game.
In basketball, it's fine if you want to do that, but it's certainly not a mandatory thing anymore. But yeah, so that's pretty much it on Ja.
I was gonna say it's running out in hockey too, because they're, as in the same in basketball, like, you just don't have the roster space for someone who can't actually play the game.
Right. Yes. No more goons. Right. Like, I need talent. Talent can be goons sometimes when I tell them.
Jamie Benn.
Yeah. Exactly. I'll at this point, let me just take a talented guy and make him a junkyard dog. I'm tired of having to maximize junkyard dogs. But yeah, so that's pretty much it with Memphis. I don't think there's too much more to cover. It's certainly going to play a factor. They're pretty well cushioned. They're pretty deep enough to sustain. But it'll be an interesting moment.
But what do you think? What do you think of the possibility of him actually receiving the full? What was it, 50?
He's not getting 50 games. He's not getting 50 games because the evidence we have is in a nightclub, not at the locker room, not in the. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's also the part where he took his gun to a completely different state,
Did he, or did someone else bring it? That's enough. What can you prove? Is what I'm saying.
If the Grizzlies were the 13th seed right now, he might look a lot. It might be a lot more likely that he got a 50 game, but you're not doing that. You're not doing that based off the evidence you have to the current 2 seed.
Well, you also have to, like I said, what I'm saying with Ja is, just like Ja has to find a fine line between who he is as a celebrity and as a basketball player and as a person in his city, the NBA has to figure out their policy and the way they want to hold themselves accountable when it comes to gun stuff, especially with the way that political shit is. It's not even, like, don't even worry about the stupid-ass Fox News headlines. Like, you're just more worried about how contradictory this makes the league look whenever it's so advocating against some of the, or advocating for gun protections. So that's where I'm like, it's just a slippery line. Like, Adam and the league have to be very careful with how they handle this, because I don't believe there's anything illegal about what he did. I'm assuming he can own a gun. I'm assuming that the nightclub that he was at, that probably wasn't cool. how he got it through there. You know, I'm sure there's some illegality in that world somewhere. I don't know if it was a legal gun. Who knows? All that
No,
shit.
probably
Right.
the closest is he broke Instagram's terms and conditions.
Yeah. So
That's
it's
not illegal.
So the
So-
realistic. So you don't want to over punish for something that's not a crime, but you do want him to take this seriously as far as you're an ambassador for your brand. I mean, this screws you as much as it screws the league. So.
Well,
you
I
know,
mean,
it's
it
just one of
screws
those
him
things.
way more than it screws the league. I mean, it's a little blemish for
fair.
the league, but they're going to get over it unless a ton of guys start doing this.
Well, it just depends. I guess the way I say it could screw the league is if they punish incorrectly
Oh,
and it
right,
looks
yeah. Okay, fair
hypocritical
enough.
or it looks just like the David Stern dress code is what I'm saying. If we have that issue again, and David Stern's still a beloved figure in history, but that'll always be a blemish that he has.
I need to see guys in suits that are made for somehow even bigger guys.
Well, unfortunately, Russell Westbrook broke that barrier again and will never go back. You're getting shirtless dudes for the rest of eternity, I think.
Freaking Kanye.
I'm telling you, dude. But I honestly, I wasn't. I was watching Russell Westbrook's
Those guys would probably
documentary.
credit like Tyler and Odd Future, but it was Kanye. Freaking pink polos and backpacks.
Well, in basketball, it was Russ that broke. I didn't even realize because I guess I never really paid attention that hard to it. But
Early Thunder.
it was Baby Russ that
I
that
watched a
stopped
lot
doing
of
the
that
suit shit.
'cause we were fighting them for spots every year.
Yep. And he started to break the barrier, and now we have chaos again, which is kind of fun.
Who wore that
Although
fully
it's
knit
crazy.
suit like a couple weeks ago?
Oh, I don't know, bro. At this point, Kuzma had the whole pink thing. I see so much goofy shit.
I'll find it, but y'all keep going on with this.
But anyway, Jaw's over. We got Mavericks and CBA. Unless y'all have anything else on Toten.
No, I think we're good to move on.
Y'all toting? Do y'all tote that thing?
Always.
You gotta be handy with the steel,
Keep that motherfucking thing on you.
if you know what I mean. Regulators mount up.
I always keep those gas station Rhino pills on me.
Jesus.
You never.
That's how you know he's ready. But
I'm-
anyway,
I'm-
so
Bring a new definition to staying strapped, boys.
I'm probably gonna cut this. I've always looked at those and been like, I'd love to know what that does, and I'm way too afraid. I'm gonna have to go to the hospital and explain that to somebody.
exactly. No, and for that reason, it is a no.
All right, no, this is what you're gonna do. You're gonna take it to like a foreign country where there's a language barrier, and it doesn't matter, right? Like, no need to explain.
Bro, I just watched a hell of a documentary or a news story on YouTube about how most of the drugs people buy in Mexico are cut with fentanyl.
It's propaganda, dude. Just go do it. It'll be fun. Have
Dude,
fun.
I was like,
Listen, just take a Rhino gas station pill to Canada. That's it. It'll be fine.
Canada.
The worst that they can do is deport you back to the U.S. and you'll have to fly out of Michigan or something.
But yeah. So what were we saying? Were we going on a tangent? Or we cutting that, right?
No, don't cut that. That's good.
So Dallas Mavericks then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Rhino pills and Kyrie Irving.
Go hand in hand, maybe. Let's go hand in hand.
So yeah, the Mavericks lost a really heartbreaking game today, but beat a really good Philadelphia team pretty handedly a couple nights ago. So it's been a little bit better for the Mavericks since we've last talked. They're showing signs of being a real basketball team. Maximum Kleber back and ready.
The thing is, they're still 2-5 when Luka and Kyrie play together. So it's still taking a minute for those two to gel.
Sometimes it's just a schedule thing too. Like I know people keep talking about Phoenix, like their bench is this big Achilles heel, like the 2010 Heat, and I'm like, bro, y'all need to reevaluate who these people on their bench are, because y'all are clearly not watching basketball. Like they don't have the best bench in the world, but like that thing isn't that bad.
I've got a bad bench for you to see.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, no shit. You want to see fucking? Well, I do like Charles Big Mouth Bassey. I like that's a good Spur. There's a lot of good Spurs actually. They just have a lot of no shooting motherfuckers. Anyway, I like the Mavs to some extent now that I've seen who's on the chopping block and who I don't have to watch every night. That feels better. Tonight felt better. They beat the bench up, but they didn't beat the bench up well enough, which is the issue. Like if you're going to beat this Suns team, you're going to have to really win all the minutes that those four guys aren't on the court together. Like if it's just three of them still, you're going to have to bust that ass. But yeah, ultimately I just can't punish you for beating a really good Philadelphia team pretty handedly a couple nights ago and then sort of just blowing a lead that a game that you maintained and controlled for most of it to a team that just added Kevin Durant without losing too damn much. like that man was the difference today. Clearly, like truly the difference today.
Yeah, he looks so good today, man. Healthy KD is just a different animal.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, I would not take it badly if I'm Mavericks. I will say though, the constant Jason Kidd hate is always hilarious. Like, I don't think a fan base hates their coach more right now than Jason Kidd and the Mavericks, and it's pretty funny compared. Well, no, I think the Rockets fans hate Steven Silas pretty badly. But other than that, I don't think there's another head coach as maligned with his fan base as the Mavericks head coach.
Which is really crazy when you think about all the love that he was getting in the postseason, like just a couple months ago.
Well, the love will be back if they win. The Maverick fans, like,
fickle, man. They are so fickle.
They're riding that train every time, bro. They're always ready for an excuse for a reason. Like, who are we gonna get mad at? It's just like, and it's funny to see because like there's so many flaws with the team, but it's still pretty close and heading in the right direction. I feel like. Hopefully the Kyrie-Luka marriage is going to work. That would make life a lot easier. But it's nice just to see Luka grow a little bit, even if it's by him having to suffer some humiliation and ass whoopings.
Yeah, it happens to everybody.
Like this game,
LeBron got swept in the 07 finals, dude.
Yeah, in this game especially, he had a clean look at the basket right at the end to tie things up, I think, and just missed it. And then now we have this image of him like just clutching his face and Kevin Durant just walking away victorious.
Yeah, and then getting up in Devin Booker's face.
Hey man, you know what? I'm never gonna be a fan of Devin Booker, but you know somebody needs to be the antagonist for Luka. So
bro,
might as well be him.
You can't hate on your half Mexican brother here.
I can. Actually.
That's representation.
Is he like the most successful person to not get hit by the
Kardashian curse? No,
I guess he wasn't directly.
He still got hit by the curse. 100%.
He wasn't directly in that family.
Isn't he still with her?
I don't think so.
Oh, I don't know, man. I don't.
Oh no, wait. Yeah, actually, sir. Peeling back the curtain here in Latino culture. Allegedly, that Jenner or that Kardashian is with Bad Bunny.
Oh,
no way.
All the Latinos are so mad right now.
Whoever runs their marketing department is obviously a genius, and I hate them.
The Kardashians. But yeah, so I think the Mavericks were decent. I think they're pretty much what we thought they were. It's really not that different of a team that they've been having. It's just you've upgraded that position from
the
Jalen Brunson.
Defense still doesn't exist.
Yeah, still not playing a ton of defense.
Which is not going to be fun come playoff time.
Well, but they also play such a slow they play such a slow, grinded out game, and the way that Luka and Kyrie can create, it really will keep them in games because they'll be able to manage them their own way. They'll be able to minimize how defensively atrocious they are, but it is about matchup too. So it's hard to project what the Mavericks are capable of until I know their path. But I certainly think that
a guaranteed uphill battle.
Yeah, I mean, anything is right now. With Luka playing the way he is, it's an uphill battle. Like, you're constantly bitching at the referees. You're constantly doing things that are putting your team at a negative defensively, even if it's just a couple of possessions. It's not even as bad, but, like, it's just you can't have those things when you're that guy. Like, you, especially as important as he is, like, the body language he has is terrible for teammates to be reading into. Like, and these are things he just has to mature on. Even while he's putting up stupid, historic, legendary stat lines.
And that's the thing is, and when I shared those stats earlier this week, is you can complain, just don't do it with the clock. Like, just don't do it with the clock running. That's
he
just
has
the
to
most
stop.
obvious.
Like Luka is,
and to Kid's credit, I mean that's what he said. Like he just said we got to get we got to stop playing with the whistle in our head or whatever. Thinking about the whistle. But
bro, it's bad. Like Luka is really DeMarcus Cousins is always going to be the worst because DeMarcus really it really just fucked him up. Like he would let the referees get into his head more than an opposing team. But Luka is not far. Like Luka's a lot closer to DeMarcus Cousins than people want to have a conversation about.
Like Luka's creating the NBA version of a power play for a third of the game.
A lot of guys do, though. I mean, that's definitely LeBron's done shit like that. Like he's not alone there, even though it doesn't make up for it.
Most of it's not during play.
Yeah. There's a lot of that superstar shit that's built in. That you can't necessarily just pin on him, but yes, it is definitely him doing it as well.
And you bring it up with him because you're more frustrated because he is so good.
Well, you bring it up with him because you don't feel like the Mavericks are actually ever going to do anything about it, and you're like, what's the message? Who teaches Luka Doncic that he does more damage to himself?
What is
Dirk's
job here? If that's not,
well, no offense, but if I'm Dirk, I'm going to be pissed off the Mavericks are still asking me to deadlift this fucking franchise when I'm supposed to be hanging out with my children.
Well, I mean, they're paying him. They're paying him to do a job.
Okay, and that's fine, but at the same time, they're also probably just making up for all the underpaid stuff that they did.
But really, the only thing you should have to do for that job is call Luka twice a week.
Yeah, to be like, hey man, just relax. Don't bitch at the ref 30 times a game.
Even still, I think we all know that Dirk isn't that kind of person, and he would not want to be put in that position. So it's yes, he would have that conversation, but I think Luka would have to come down.
I guess Finley doesn't have the.
Finley doesn't have the cachet.
I feel like he has the skins on the wall to be like, look, dude, I know what the hell it takes to win.
Finley,
as a role player.
But there's tiers to it, and Finley was an all-star, I think, once, or borderline all-star once.
He was always really good. He's someone that you could say, look, I've seen. I played with Tim Duncan, I played with Dirk, I played with Steve Nash. I know what it takes.
Ultimately, I think that's what Kid's for, and I think that's why Kid works. I don't know if he'll be the successful one, or if they'll end up having an issue where Luka doesn't appreciate what Kid taught him until too late, or until it's over for them, but. I do think that's what Jason Kidd's best for because, what do you Luka? You still have a long way to go to even reach Jason Kidd's level in this game. Your coach isn't just somebody who was. It's not Doc Rivers. It wasn't just a good starting point guard in his day. Your head coach is one of the 50 best players of all time and will be for a very long time. There's just no way around it. And he was an MVP candidate or an MVP, I believe. Yeah, I feel like that's right. And he was a guy who took a dumpster fire franchise. Well, maybe wrong. No, because because Shaq and Duncan would have been taking all of his, right?
Shaq, Duncan, Kobe,
KG, maybe. Yeah, no. Kobe only has one, and that's not till late in the 09 or 08. I know that one because that one's wild. Yeah, no MVPs for Kids. So he would have been second, third, a couple years, right? And then he deadlifted a franchise that was good, but not he was really the maestro of that Nets team that was capitalizing on a bad Eastern Conference. It's just a lot, that's a lot of cachet in the superstar basketball world. So if Luka can't get that message from Kid, and Kid really Kid had a lot of shit happen in his career early that could have sent his career in a different path. Then he had the issue, with his wife, and then you had the issue with him not being able to shoot, and all these things, various issues, but all obstacles that he essentially put behind him to have that career. So it is somebody you should be listening to.
And then he started off his coaching career setting up his own roadblocks again.
And then of course as a coach, he's learned plenty. He's learned plenty of shit about how to fuck up.
Having someone run into you so you can spill water on the court because you're out of timeouts is a genius tactic, and I applauded it. I wish he would executed it a little bit better, but
really had to buy into it.
You could tell that flopping still wasn't really a part of the game when Kid was playing because he just didn't have it naturally. He didn't learn enough from Manu.
He probably scoffed at the idea. It's like, me flop? What? No.
No,
I'm about to post up a 0.20 assists, 20 rebound game. Get the fuck out of my face.
Yeah. Jason Kidd's original version of himself was a non-shooting entity, so he had to play that nasty ball.
It's crazy. You can see the turnaround if you just look at his stat lines across his entire career, where he went from like, yeah, this guy can't shoot for shit, to like, wow, he is draining threes, man.
Yeah, I mean, adapt, bro. Adapt whenever whenever he clearly wasn't, the weight carrying point guard. It was, how do you adapt?
Yeah, I think it started in 04.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just kept going and going, and then eventually, at some point, he was a 46% 3-point shooter for the Mavs one year.
Yeah, one of the projects I want to take on eventually is diving into the times that teams have fumbled superstar careers, and the Nets are definitely going to be one of my favorites to get to, because that whole Vince Carter saga was like the biggest thing that ever happened to me as a kid, and it ended up being one of the most meaningless trades that ever happened.
Are you also going to talk about Could you also talk about the Magic? Come on, they had some real superstars come through there and amounted to nothing.
Theirs less interesting. They're like, to me, there's some more fun ones.
I think Shaq and Penny is one of the most interesting what ifs.
Yeah, they had Shaq and Penny, they had T-Mac.
But it's really not an interesting story of how it happened, right? Like it is to some extent, because they've made fucking like 3 documentaries about it. But it's basically just, there was a bullshit rule in the CBA still. The Lakers were able to poach him and offer a huge deal. The Magic got freaked out, and Alonzo Mourning in Miami Heat fucked the market up. Or the Charlotte Hornets and Alonzo Mourning. It was Alonzo Mourning and whatever team he was with at the time. Fucked the market up. And Shaq goes, oh, I'm taking the big money. There's like a clipping in Orlando's newspaper where a bunch of local people voted and said that they didn't think he deserved the money. He saw it and took the LA money and left. It is fun, but it's like, it's not as like, the team didn't have anything to do with it really, other than being like stupid and not just giving Shaq all the money in the world.
I guess that's fair. It would have been nice to see a Shaq and T-Mac, though.
The best one is probably KG's Timberwolves, because that one has like a bunch of really stupid draft picks. It has his own superstar teammate getting mad at him for getting paid and then forcing a trade. It has
Sprewell?
Yeah, no, Stephon Marbury.
That's right.
It has
Vaseline eating Starberry.
Yeah, it has. What else did it have? It has them skirting the rules of the CBA and then getting fined a first-round pick for it, for the infamous Joe Smith contract. What else is there? Yeah, and then it all culminates in a pretty decent team. Somehow they bumblefuck to a decent 04 team, and then after that, it just all falls apart. I think Sprewell ends up like not signing with them and getting into beef with them, and then Sprewell's career is just over after that.
Yeah, I remember
Is that the one
SI cover with KG and Sprewell.
Was there not like a moment where Latrell, just correct me if I'm wrong if this happened either at Minnesota or in New York, but he was offered like a contract and he was told, I have a family to feed. And it was like a really big contract for like that time period.
That would be the Minnesota thing.
Oh, okay. And then
he just never played again.
I don't know. I hope he's still able to feed his family.
It was really wild. But yes, so that was a big, well, it was kind of good for CBA because KG's deal that pissed off Stephon Marbury set off the events that led to the 1999 lockout. And that brings us to talking about CBA.
And the San Antonio Spurs.
Yeah, the Spurs did win the title that year. And
the transition is smooth as butter.
As this year commences, they might be in play for...
I did want to ask you real quick, because I was looking at this earlier. So right now, like the bottom 3 seeds are the 14% lottery. Do you think Charlotte falls down into that fight a little bit more?
You actually hit on a point that I missed from earlier that I skipped over due to I was trying to skim through it, but LaMelo Ball's fracture kind of did play into that. So at the time I wrote it down, It was 44 losses with Hornets, 48 with Detroit, 47 San Antonio, 49 Houston. I know that's changed a little bit, but essentially, I don't like. It's an interesting question. 5 games to go, essentially. I think Detroit could end up being good enough to win some games. They've been competitive recently, for the most part. Houston might have a little bit of luck, but they're so damn bad. I don't know. San Antonio is really not that bad of a basketball team. They just can't shoot for shit. So like every game they just end up losing because they just literally shoot ass numbers. Like it's hilarious. So I do think it does play a little like the LaMelo injury does certainly play into this because I think they would have easily stayed the 4th team out and then kept those 3 teams basically locked into that same percentage, which is what you're talking about.
It's only 1.5% difference between 3 and 4.
I still would bet. I would still bet the Hornets because they have enough going for them. Dennis Smith Jr. has low-key been a good defensive player, even though he still can't shoot worth the shit. So like they kind of have some Rozier, like they kind of have enough, and they hadn't played with him for most of the season anyway. So I think the Hornets will probably be fine. They didn't end up selling enough of their parts to be as bad as the other 3 teams. And Detroit would probably be more competitive, but they are playing a lot of young guys now. Like they're playing a lot of these guys they took flyers on, like Wiseman and RJ Hampton, just trying to see what the fuck they are. So yeah, all of that is to allude to the new CBA, which does not seem to have any language changing the draft lottery. So expect to still see the top 3 thing and then the percentages the way they are, even though they could change year to year. I don't think they have to be CBA official every year. I think those are allowed to change. So some of the most important highlights here, and we'll stop on any of these that you guys find interesting. The hard cap is going to be dead. So the whole idea of a hard cap, I think we mentioned a little bit when it was being floated. That one died as soon as it probably came into public consumption and everyone ridiculed it. They are going to update some of the things with a luxury tax, though. So essentially, the new tax would have the band system. So you would have you would basically just raise the bands. So it would make it harder to get into the luxury tax to begin with, so that teams aren't penalized for spending. But it also would it would harshen the penalty on flagrant spending teams. Golden State is the easiest example, right?
But it doesn't dissuade from other teams spending.
Right. And this would lessen the penalty on when you just go over the luxury tax too. So essentially, it would be light on people who just go over the luxury tax, which would influence people to do better jobs of keeping, payers played and not doing the funny cap crap that they do every year. And then it would maybe allow them to be just a touch more competitive if they want to be whatever, right? And then, like I said, it'll actually be way harder to sort of do whatever the hell Golden State's done, even though I still don't understand why we're trying to punish them for something that isn't even really working, but whatever. It did win a title last year, but I don't know that you could really say that those picks, and like they also overpaid a guy that was a bust while winning that title. So it's kind of wild, or a bust for them at least, a wild situation. So that's what it looks like on the salary cap. Is there anything that interests you there, or?
Dude, I'm glad that they're not gonna punish us harshly with the luxury cap. Although I wish they the flagrant spending thing. There should still be some kind of language in there that says, all right, well, if it's your own guys that you drafted, there should be kind of an exception. But if it's somebody that you brought from another team, and then you're trying to extend them, and that's the abuse of the luxury tax, then yeah, that I'm totally for that part.
Yeah,
and I think they need to make a differentiation. I think I said that. Whatever. Don't know.
I'd be in support of them telling owners, all right, you got your governors, you've got one spot on your team that doesn't count towards the cap. that you have to spend your own personal money on just to see like what Steve Ballmer would unload for like Kevin Durant.
Or just like a mediocre player, just to have like a little piece, a rotation piece.
Somebody give
Mark
Scoot
Cuban,
Henderson 50
if Mark
million a
Cuban
year.
was allowed to use his own personal checkbook for a player for like 4 to 5 years,
Oh, he would never. That man is keeping the powder dry now more than
that's
ever.
how you find out. That's how you find out who's really about it as an owner.
So yeah, I mean, like so you actually did get into something else that is a part of this new contract extensions are going to change a little bit too. So it's not really going to change what you've said. I agree to some extent, but I guess they don't really see that the same way. Like it's just not. It doesn't seem like there's an opinion that you should be given any more. Oh, hold on. Sorry, I just turned on a game and the sound came on, so I don't know if that fucked y'all up, but it fucked me up. Anyway, so the contracts extensions could change. This would mean guys like Kyle Kuzma, especially with Washington. Washington can give him up to 120% raise off of this year's salary whenever they're offering him. This new CBA, they would be it would be somewhere between 140 to 150%. So there's some incentive that they're trying to build in for teams keeping and retaining players, but unfortunately, it still doesn't really speak to allowing them to skirt some of the cap by rewarding them for drafting the player. Obviously, in Kuzma's case, Washington didn't draft him, but in the case of like the Warriors, they wouldn't be so heavily penalized and maybe get to keep James Wiseman and groom him to be the player that they want him to be, like Detroit's going to essentially do for very cheap. So we'll see. That one just was an interesting note. I don't know if you guys are that interested in that one. It's a very minute detail, but it seemed mildly interesting.
Yeah, no, we can definitely go into it more.
To me, that the only thing that I would add to it is I think that probably risks really bad contracts. But I mean, what's new?
Yeah, listen, it's professional sports. There's always going to be somebody who has a bad contract, and we're all going to laugh about it, unless it's our team that's getting affected by it.
One of my favorite things that I don't think I've seen in any other sport, but I've seen happen at least twice in the NHL, where someone signed a deal and the league just says, "No, you can't sign that deal."
That hasn't happened in the NBA in a while.
It'll be like 17 years or something stupid like that.
Yeah, they must have different CBA negotiations because I don't think.
Often, but someone will try to do something and they're just like, "Come on, guys."
Yeah, I do know in the NBA that that stuff is handled in the CBA. Like you can't offer a max of certain years or whatever. It's all pretty much written what you can offer people.
Yeah, I think nowadays everyone's got that pretty generalized. Although baseball and hockey still do like longer contracts than football and basketball do for sure. Which,
if it works for both sides,
the nature of the play of the game and the effectiveness of age and players and stuff. But
yeah, definitely, you definitely see older players. Well, maybe that changes the NBA, but the NBA is so risky with how quick an injury can be obtained and how much strain you're putting on.
You lose just a fraction of a second on your cut, and all of a sudden you're not an MVP candidate anymore. So,
yeah, the knees are easy to destroy. That is for sure. So that's just a little extension thing. Like I said, the only thing it worries me about is that we'll see dumb contracts start to infect the league a little bit more again. The one thing that won't happen is that we will not be seeing a repeat of the 2016 massacre of a competitive balance in the league. Smoothing will be a part of the CBA. I'm sure that they won't have the numbers ready until a new TV contract is signed. But essentially, instead of saying, hey, everyone gets like $30 extra million to spend this year, haha, Warriors, do you want Kevin Durant? Because now you can have him. Hey, Lakers, do you want to sign Luol Deng to a $30 million contract or whatever the fuck they gave him?
Oh my God, I forgot about that one.
Summer 16 is amazing, bro.
What is smoothing?
So cap smoothing would essentially mean instead of giving so the salary cap is going to raise as a result of the new TV deal. The new TV deal, we won't know the exact details for a little bit, But essentially, that could have, if they decided to, because the players last time got greedy, and they've admitted they got greedy. In fact, I think Kevin Durant used that exact wording, and they wanted the money right away. And instead of having the cap slowly be raised every year moving forward. They thought the owners would do something, or the governors would do something, that was act of bad faith. In reality, it was a stupid idea because it completely destroyed competitive balance for 2 or 3 years. And it gave just a massive amount of awful contracts. I mean, that was just, there was like very few teams that did not take a massive L during that offseason. So that's just one of those things that cap smoothing will help prevent. We do not know what the TV rights are because I'm sure that's a very controversial and interesting subject within the league offices. I posted in the thing. I think I put the number in the rundown a couple days ago, but 19 out of the 30 teams are dealing with RSN issues right now. I think we already talked about Bally Sports, but Sportsnet is also going the way of the dinosaurs.
Oh,
so it looks like
is that Canadian Sportsnet?
So it's a few different ones. I think it's the Lakers, the Rockets, and the Raptors.
I thought the Rockets were part of the Bally stuff.
No, Rockets have their own. I know Rockets were one of them.
I just remember.
Right?
I just remember when they were on Fox
Canadian.
Sports, they had their own one.
Sportsnet's Canadian. They do a lot of hockey.
So which one? Well, it might still be them though.
Yeah, no, they're pretty much only Canada.
Who just went bankrupt?
They're entirely Canada, actually.
Rockets broadcast. I'll figure that out.
I know.
Yeah, Sportsnet. AT&T Sportsnet is what it is.
Okay, it's AT&T. Okay.
Yeah, it's a different thing. But I think the Lakers have another one. I don't remember. It was 3 teams. It was 3 teams that got added because of that one, and then obviously the other one is all Bally. So 19 of the teams dealing with RSN issues. RSNs are the regional streaming networks. It will be interesting to see who the winner of the TV rights will be. I think my preference is probably NBC at this point because I would love to.
Sorry, just to clarify what happened was AT&T Sportsnet is from the merger with Warner Brothers and HBO. That all that nonsense going on. Warner Brothers and Discovery, HBO and Discovery. Warner Brothers Discovery announced it would leave the RSN business. That was about a week ago. The company sent messages to teams that telling them they have till March 31st to take back their rights or acquire the networks. If not, the channels are going to file for bankruptcy.
Yeah, which I think only impacts baseball as much as this year because I think everybody else will be fine.
NHL, MLB, the Jazz, the Las Vegas Aces, the Rockets, Trailblazers. We're just talking about basketball.
That's what it was. Okay, yeah.
So it's a lot of the Northwest.
Forget what the Lakers is. Maybe they have a different one.
Northwest. I don't even know what I'm saying. For some reason, they have a lot of Seattle. Because it's also part of the Root Sport, which is up. Okay, sorry, I got it.
Fair enough. So yeah, well, hopefully we'll see some sort of change in RSNs. I think I'm rooting for NBC to buy the rights. I just want a clean break.
I just want the league to just league pass. Give me a price to watch all the games. Give me a price to watch just my team.
I would love to think that would happen, but I feel like the money is in letting someone else do it, and that's.
I don't even understand how that makes sense.
I don't either necessarily, but I guess it's because of the bidding war, right? Because the bidding war is so high for this product that like they've got to partner with somebody on this, and maybe that's also so they don't have to spend the money to do it themselves.
But isn't it cheaper to do it to pay one person in-house to do something versus?
I don't know about how much because you have to run a whole app essentially that would have to like handle all of this new.
I mean, like the
but
W
it's not
app,
good.
The
right,
W app is fine. Like I could watch. I didn't have any problem watching games.
Well, but that's also it's need based. It's user based. So you're talking about a much different load. That you would be taking if it was constantly It was the only way you could ever watch NBA games, and that's not going to happen either. So there'll still be like your ESPN's still going to be a part of this. I just don't want them to have the big. I just don't have the big.
I wish the teams held the I wish the teams held, or the league held the exclusive rights to where they make it where you can get it from them no matter what, or you can go to these other outlets if you prefer.
It'd make life a whole fucking lot easier, but unfortunately, money talks, shit walks.
It seems like they'd make more money that way, getting direct. It's like my company sells on Amazon, but because Amazon takes a cut, we got to mark the prices up. So you got to try to get someone to stop shopping there to come directly to you.
Mm.
So they save money and you still make more money.
I don't know what the answer is. I hope we get some answers before they announce, but I'm sure that they'll probably make an agreement on this CBA without fully knowing what the deal is with the TV stuff. That they'll just sort of have a ballpark idea and they'll work with that because they know it's a fucking shit ton of money.
I just hope that we could have like local broadcast show.
Well, you can still do that. It just, you would have a parent company that would handle it, and it would handle it for everybody, or the league would handle it, or whatever. The teams would handle it. But then you have a worry that's different, right? Because then you have Mavs State Media for real, and Bulls State Media, and Pacers State Media, and we got propaganda machines.
That's what the regional sports networks already are.
True.
So
that's true. That is true. But there is supposed to be some
confused about that.
There's supposed to be some like
objectivity.
Some objectivity. Like
well, I think that's
you're
what
supposed
you
to
get
hire
national games for, is so you can get the objectivity.
Well, I mean, because I think the Cowboys Blue Star Media has a lot of different ones, right? And they maybe put in more than a lot of teams do, but like they have all the different types. If you want homerism, they got the homerisms. If you want guys who will break down film, give you some really good breakdowns, they got that. If you want some dudes that are just going to have fun with it, they got a little bit of, well, not as much anymore. They've kind of been hemorrhaging dudes lately. But
post sounds of the sideline after a loss,
which is annoying, honestly, because I think that shit would be way funnier. But
they don't need you hearing Micah Parsons just belittling the entire team.
True. But so anyway,
rightfully so.
So yeah, I would like to see our sense change. Who knows what it'll end up being like and if it'll be better, but it's coming soon. And then the final bit of CBA talk and as a result, basketball talk is the thing we've been waiting on for almost a decade. And no, I'm not talking about expansion. I don't think expansion is going to be very close at this rate. The age limit. The age limit looks like it's getting close to being repealed, to push back to allow 18-year-olds to join the league. The reporting that came out with this whole CBA reporting that we know all this information from certainly does not say that they're done, but it basically seems like the only thing holding it up is that, and Caesar, this is exactly what you suggested. Well, not exactly. There's a little variation, but essentially they would be okay with it, the players would, as long as there is veteran designated roster spots. So essentially it'd be just kind of like what Caesar said, but in reverse. So instead of having just your roster spot for your 18-year-old, you would have it for your whatever 35-plus-year-old or whatever they set the bar at.
Yeah, and mine was a little bit more radical too, with the whole just getting rid of the draft in general.
Well, yeah. They won't go that far for sure.
Cowards.
But yes, the designated veteran.
Yeah, but how else you can get pictures of Kobe Bryant in a Charlotte Hornets hat?
Yes, and the worst
sacrifices need to be made.
They were the
Patrick.
Hornets. That was Charlotte became the New Orleans Hornets, which became the New Orleans Pelicans when we were forced to give them the Hornets name back to Charlotte.
And for some reason, I still have to deal with the effing Utah Jazz and Los Angeles Lakers. I get why Lakers can't go back, but Jazz can still go back.
Well,
that's
the
fine.
problem is the Jazz still do have a lot of the 90s history, too, so I think that's why that's...
Oh, yeah.
If you don't have the pedo and the...
12-year-old pregnant.
The anti-vaxxer.
Let's maintain that history.
Yeah, so... And honestly, I think it's good Utah has that because now they can always be known as the Utah Gentrifiers, and it's so perfect that their NBA team is gentrifying a black city's culture. I think that's
Jizz.
As someone who loves irony, I am perfectly fine with the Jazz keeping it because I will always laugh a little bit in my heart whenever I think about the fact that they've just gentrified black culture in the whitest place in America, all for the sake of basketball.
I do also think it's funny that no one thinks about the Lakers name when it's one of the most absurd in the business.
Well, and here's the funny part about Lakers, because technically we could have the DFW Lakers. Lakes are
That
man-made.
would make more sense.
But we only have
Los
like one.
Angeles
We only have like
doesn't
one
have-
national. But the thing is,
I don't care about
LA
natural,
does have
even
lakes.
artificial.
No, LA has lakes though, but they're fake. They're all fake for the most part.
But they're
just like
not-
ours.
I mean, the name comes from the land of 1,000
Right,
lakes.
right. No, it's hilarious when you find out what it is, but it is technically still fine because LA County has like however many lakes, but they're all man-made. Like none of them
they
are.
kept Dodgers, and that works because cities at one time at least still had trolleys. Giants doesn't matter. You can have that anywhere. A lot of these teams changed names, like the Browns changed to the Ravens, made sense.
Well, that one I feel like was just you had to at that moment.
Yeah.
You're too. That was the '90s, you know.
Well, it's also a different owner, Browns to Ravens, like, and it was named after an old guy, and just like, yeah, let's separate from the old, yeah. Sorry, that's a way long tangent on sports teams' names.
No, you're right though. The Lakers one is always going to be funny. I mean, the Clippers one is still pretty weird too because it's like, did people
I was trying to
ride
think of what
boats?
that is.
It's a boat. It's like a boat. It's like a giant boat.
Okay.
That's what that is?
Yeah, it's a giant boat.
I've
I know I've looked it up
never really
1,000
cared
times,
to know,
and I
but
never
like,
remember.
now that I do, I'm bothered by it.
They should just replace it with Clippy.
Because they were San
From-
Diego Clippers, and because that would make more sense
Yeah.
because there's a naval dock and you know. But I mean, technically, there's docks and stuff in LA too. But it's just so funny to like.
They should replace it with Microsoft's Clippy.
I feel like the majority of people would just think when they hear like, oh, the Los Angeles Clippers, they're just gonna think of like hair clippers.
Well, and to be fair, if we're talking about the most like wild names, like the New York Knicks have a pretty wild name when you try to explain that to
Knickerbockers?
when you try to explain that to young people, like people are like, the fuck is the real name of the New York Knicks? And they're like, is that
Yeah, at least it's
racist? And you're like, no, that's actually like an old word that
No,
people
it's
just don't
just
use
Steve
anymore.
Kerr's son's name.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just one of those things where it's like, you look at it, it's like there's a lot of funny ass sports names for sure. I mean, the Philadelphia Warriors became the Golden State Warriors, but they're allowed to keep that because it's not as offensive as the other names that are like that. So I don't know.
Oh, I guess I never realized that was supposed to be like an indigenous Native American.
Go look at their original mascot.
That makes sense.
Or their original logo.
Is it similar to Chief Wahoo? If I had to guess.
Mm-hmm. Nah,
is it cartoonish or is it just?
I would say it's well. I mean, obviously it's a cartoon rendering, but it's
Well,
I
I mean,
wouldn't
like-
call it. I wouldn't call it as like racist or anything. It just looks like an old cartoon. I wouldn't say it's like a. I wouldn't say it's nearly as bad as what Washington was rocking or what Cleveland was rocking.
Not great.
He's just got like a little tomahawk or whatever, and
See,
like
the
the headdress.
thing that didn't oh god. This might not
It's not
make it,
worth
but the thing that didn't bother me as much about Washington's was like he at least it was like a serious face, like the old Redskin logo. It wasn't like he wasn't smiling at you.
Yeah, it wasn't like the Cleveland Indians one.
Like it looked intimidating, honestly. I always
Oh
thought
yeah,
as
you're
a
right.
kid.
That is pretty. I had to relook at that one. Yeah, that is pretty problematic. He just looks kind of like.
I mean, it's not like it's definitely not the worst thing ever. Like it's not. I don't look at it.
You went
and
to the
think I would
Philadelphia one,
be
right?
Yeah, I'm not thinking like I'd be like all overall upset, but it's like it's not great.
Because I guess as soon as they went to San Francisco, they changed it to just a headdress, and then they went to the city and everything. So they changed to the city in 1969. Very progressive, San Francisco.
No way.
The city. Let's see.
They don't like being called the
Warriors.
city though.
Oh my god. Okay, I just saw the Philadelphia Warriors one. Yeah, that's terrible.
Well, I mean, at least he's playing basketball. They don't have him like holding a
Oh, that just
jug
doesn't-
or a spear or
Look at his
Yeah.
face.
yeah.
no.
You can't defend that one. It's so
I like
awful.
to- I like to imagine the technology was just so bad for art at the time that this is just the best they can
Some
do.
dude in
man.
a pencil.
Bullshit.
They should have updated it at some point for sure.
Well, they did update it quickly and got rid of it. Like, I'm actually kind of impressed that they went to the like. It almost looks like they had to deal with that issue when they changed, because it went to just a headdress, and then straight to just not acknowledging any sort of like a Warrior's just whatever we want it to be.
Yeah,
and now people are like, oh, that's an '80s movie.
Warriors come out to play.
You know, I used to like that, and now I watch so much basketball that I hate it because I hear that every fucking time I watch.
Oh, do they use that?
Games. Yes.
That's awful.
Yes.
All I
and
really
they have
think about every time is Chappelle doing P. Diddy and making the band, and he's like, breast milk, you make my day. It's clinking the bottles.
All right, well, that's hoops. I don't think we have much more. We've squeezed.
We got like 15 more games left or something this season.
A little bit, yeah, something like that. Because there's, whenever I was trying to do the math on the LeBron shit, it was like 20 games to go. So that sounds about right. Little over
Lakers
15.
Played 65, so Lakers have 17 left. So that's probably about where everyone else is.
Yep. So we'll see. We will see what the fun is. I will do a little bit. We'll focus on basketball next week, next time we talk, because things will have made a lot more sense at that point. I have pretty good feelings about a lot of teams. I just don't, I want to be patient with some of them. I think most of them are ready for the playoffs. Memphis, obviously, there's a wrench in that whole thing now. But we'll see. It is going to be fun-ass playoffs, though. Even maybe a badass play-in, because even the East has some pretty good teams in the play-in that are all pretty much neck and neck, too. So it should be fun.
Here's for Victor.
That concludes part 1 of this week's Pass the Rock. Don't forget to join us in part 2. Thank you.